Hi, good evening. I'm with Sanjay, very dear friend of mine, and we had a great session talking about life. I mean, there's nothing else that we between him and me we can only think of nature and life. So we were just thinking about in the morning. I was thinking about depression and what is depression and how people can cope with it and why is it made such a big thing. I mean, if you say depression is not a big thing, a lot of people will simply hate you for saying that. Well, still, it's not a big thing if you understand it. Um, Depression is when the mind doesn't work. Mind is locked in either continuous thought of this around the same thing. It can be anything, anything, and plain anything can depress you. What is depression basically? Situate, yeah.
Uh, like uh, like when you said what is depression, I feel like when you said the mind is locked, I feel mind is in a loop actually. Whatever the incident it takes, emotion is like a dark cloud. So when it is in a loop, keep thinking about the same thing over and over and over and again. Uh, that's what I feel about it.
So, okay, okay, it's like a 0-1 situation. Zero is complete lockdown, and one is thinking the same thing over again, which means you're not able to move 1 inch away towards or left or right. You're just stuck there. So for me, it is it's like a parallel same situation in my mind because I've experienced what I'm saying. Um, there is no challenge with the well-being of a depressed person. I mean, physically, you see, he's okay. No, mostly, it's not like a physical issue that is bothering. It's just something in the mind. What is that something? I want X thing to be like X way. Anything then X way will make me slightly uncomfortable. There will be resistance of my thought that why is this X thing not in the position of X? In his life, in my life, this X thing can be placed differently. So I have a innate idea where this X thing should be in life. It can be a thought about money, social system, relationships very commonly, or expectations from job. We are born in different circumstances. For me, if this X thing is not in the right place, it can totally bother me, it can destroy me. For him, it could be just okay within the bearable limits. So we must understand that depression is the able the desire to see something in some position. It is totally opposite of acceptance. The moment you accept, you can be depressed about something, but when you get out of depression, it feels like why the hell was I even depressed about something? This is probably the success story of many people who've been depressed, and the moment they get out of it, like why I was even thinking about that. It just suddenly feels so light because the brain has got into a new acceptance zone. In an article, just small article that I wrote, I compared depression of a man's mind as if a stone is sinking in water. Normal, if I visualize myself as sinking, I automatically would try very hard to stay afloat. I'll be like, moving my hands and legs in water just to stay afloat. Now, depression and the sinking stone theory is like your mind is trying to reach a deeper state of understanding compared to the previous state which you had thought that okay, you put a mandate in your mind that this has to be like this, but your mind is going through a different layer. It's just sinking and it's going to its natural state, a state of finding solid ground. we should stop trying to stay hard afloat by talking to, I mean, yes, it's recommended if you have very, very strong negative thoughts to talk it out. But does talking out really help depression? I don't. What do you say?
Like as you said earlier, like in our conversation just before the video was taken, like the motivation doesn't really help you. I mean, for a long term, if you see, maybe for that moment it feels like if somebody motivates, if we talk to someone else, we feel like we really get motivated and okay, we think that our depression is gone away for that particular moment. But if you see, if you stay with the depression, you will feel that it continues even after you getting motivated or something like that. Because success doesn't happen like this once you get motivated. Like we have seen in our all movies that if a hero or somebody falls ill or something like that, he does a lot of efforts, he comes back and he wins. But depression is does not work like that with the motivation. Like what I understood today by talking to you.
So we just had an earlier discussion about why motivation doesn't help depression. Because motivation is a success story that somebody got out of depression by doing XYZ things. But what is depression? Depression is a lockup of mind. The mental faculties don't work. So, whatever you read in a motivational story will not stay with you. What will stay with you is the same loop of thoughts. So, automatically you get drawn back into it. So, to my understanding, let the depression work on you. It's just like yoga, it's just like dhyan, but it's painful. So many kind of meditation, so many kind of dhyan are not easy to get into, but they transform your mind being from one desirable state. You go through a painful period and you reach another very desirable stage, which is much more solidly found. The foundations are really strong. In my understanding, I have been into depression for a really long period and I did not know. I thought this is normal. But then
Yeah.
I realized that I spent almost close to 20 years in depression. And so I see how it worked on me. And one fine day, I saw it was gone because I was in a newer understanding. There's no need to, I'm just suggesting, it's not medical advice, but if it clicks inside you, it's meant, if it clicks, it will work for you. Let, like everything else, like Vipassana, it's very strong, hard practice, but it transforms you. Meditation is a longer practice, but your entity, your identity completely will change and you will find a new purpose through the dark long tunnel of meditation, which is just, sorry, like of depression, which is just a new acceptance. In one side of the tunnel is the older you, then there's a deep long tunnel of transformation, and then there's a new you, a fantabulous, I mean, I'm not even trying to inspire.
Yeah.
It's just let it work on you. And about the gentleman, I don't know if he committed suicide. A lot is being written, and I don't want to make it controversial. But people with high ambitions have high goals, high preset goals. These goals, they don't belong to them, they belong to the system, they belong to the mindset. Yeah, and whenever we follow a system that we are attracted to, it can be fame, wealth, money, we are very attracted to get looped because of the inner deep desire to be having fame. We have to be adapting to a totally new mind language, a language which our brain doesn't want to speak, but we are pulled into that. Stay natural, observe yourself. So in one example I was just sharing, the relation that your soul has, the soul has with your identity, your name, your position, your status, should not be like this. It should not be clinging to each other. It should not be like this. It should be watching each other at a soft, comfortable distance. The more your soul watches your identity in a comfortable, harmonious, loving relation, gentleness with yourself, even in depression, even in the hardest time, watch your circumstances like this, watching each other gently. Like you watch a kitten, a flower, whatever is bringing positive information or in a state. Never stay very close to who you think you are because you're going to undergo a transformation in depression. So, this is the beautiful side of depression.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like difficult emotions bring some kind of information which is very useful to you. I think you need to sink inside those emotions and try to understand what it meant for. Maybe at that particular moment it's overwhelming to you, but the more you stay with that, the more you try to move on with the depression. Obviously it's going to be better. You will feel better after some time. So, but when you feel better sometime, you have to analyze what information it brought in. Like something, some failure might have happened. Like then you can sit and imagine why failure happened in your life. Why am I really imperfect or perfect? Like you can relate it with the terms of failure and stuff like that.
I just to say, I usually, generally, it's a very good trend that Sanjay is sharing here to compare. But in my practice, when you have really changed from who you were earlier, when your perception of watching the world and yourself has changed, I personally won't do comparison because the comparison actually he brought a very deep thought, but actually the comparison also is one of the big challenge because when we compare we want to be something, and depression actually breaks all those norms. This is one thing. There is no sorry between me and Sanjay. We can be at our spaces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And I would like to share one example. For me, depression is a little bit like Hatha yoga. When you get into a yoga asana, it's hard. And in Hatha yoga, you have to maintain an asana for certain time. But while maintaining an asana, you see new portals of information intake open while you're in an asana. So for me, depression is like a hatha asana, hatha yoga asana. It's opening new dimensions and a totally new way to look at situations, which is where incidentally depression is meant to lead us. And I think that we should not call depression as depression because it's a very depressing term. So I would rather call it depression inverse rainbow, which is more like a smiley.
Yeah.
So let's just use a fresh new term for depression and let's now start to respect this very beautiful transformational um, tool of the universe. Namaskar from both of us. Yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you.